Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's talk about emotional intelligence. You've heard this term everywhere, right? But what does it really mean? Is it just some buzzword people throw around in meetings, or is it, something fundamental to living a better life? Today, we're going to break it all down and figure out why EI might be one of the most important skills any of us can learn.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to challenge a goal that almost all of us have. From there, we'll get a solid definition of what emotional intelligence actually is. Then, we'll get practical and look at the 5 core skills you need to build it. And finally, we'll zoom way out and imagine what the world could be like if we all got a little better at this stuff.
All right, let's dive right in. We're going to start with a question that seems really simple, but the answer tells us a whole lot about how we think about a good life. So, picture this. A workshop leader asks a room full of parents this exact question, and almost every single one of them had the same answer. Any guesses what it was?
Yep. To be happy, and of course, that's a beautiful, loving thing to want for someone. But let's just press pause for a second. Is being happy all the time really a realistic goal? Or, more importantly, is that even what a full, rich, meaningful life is really made of? I mean, life happens, right? Another kid takes their toy. They don't get invited to the birthday party. They mess up on a test. You make a mistake at work. These moments of frustration, disappointment, jealousy, they aren't failures. They're just part of being a person.
So, maybe the real goal isn't to create a life that's totally free of difficult feelings. Maybe it's to build up a toolkit that helps us handle those feelings when they show up. And that, right there, is the heart of emotional intelligence.
Okay, so where did this whole idea even come from? It feels pretty modern, but the concept has actually been around for a while.
The idea started bubbling up among researchers back in the early 90s, but it was in 1998 that a guy named Daniel Goleman wrote a book that gave it a definition that just clicked with people and really brought it into the mainstream.
And this is it. So let's unpack that. It's not about not having feelings, it's the exact opposite. It's about knowing what you're feeling and having a sense of what others are feeling, and then using that knowledge to handle your emotions and your relationships in a healthy way. It's awareness plus management.
Okay, that's the big idea. But how do you actually get emotionally intelligent? Well, the good news is it's not some vague concept. It breaks down into 5 real learnable skills. Here they are, the 5 building blocks: self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills. And notice the order here. They kind of build on each other. It all has to start with that very first one, knowing what is going on inside you.
Self-awareness really is the foundation for everything else. Take the story of a little boy named Jonah. Whenever he got frustrated, he would instantly go into what his parents called fight mode. We're talking hitting, kicking, the whole thing. There was zero space between the feeling and the action.
So, instead of just saying, "Stop that," his parents became emotion detectives. They would just observe, saying things like, "Jonah, your fists are getting really tight." By naming what they saw, they helped him connect that physical sensation in his body to the word frustrated. Suddenly, he could spot the feeling coming, and that awareness, that tiny pause, changed everything.
And that leads us to a really important point here. There's self-regulation. That's what you do in the moment. You're at a restaurant, the service is slow, and you take a breath instead of yelling. But then there's emotion processing. That's what you do later. That's calling a friend to vent about the bad service, so you don't just bury that frustration. You need both. You can't just keep stuffing feelings away forever.
Okay, skill number 3, empathy. And I love this quote from Brené Brown because it's so simple and so perfect. It's not about feeling for people, it's about feeling with them. It's not about fixing, it's about connecting. Think about it like this. Your kid is having a full-on meltdown because their Lego tower fell over. Now, you don't have to understand why that's a tragedy, but you do know what disappointment feels like. You've been there. So you connect to that feeling, not the specific situation. That right there, that's empathy. You know that feeling when you're working on something or playing a sport or just deep in a hobby, and the rest of the world just fades away. Time flies and you're just completely absorbed. That state of flow is driven by intrinsic motivation, and that's our 4th skill. It's the joy of doing the thing for the sake of doing it.
Now, obviously, we can't be in that perfect flow state 24/7, but we can create the right conditions for it. When you're trying to learn something new, for example, instead of beating yourself up for every mistake, you can focus on just getting a little bit better. It's about choosing compassion over perfectionism. That's how we feed motivation in ourselves and in the people around us. And finally, we have social skills. This is where we put it all together. It's basically the art of reading the room. You just intuitively know that the way you talk to your best friend is totally different from how you talk to your boss, right? It's all about understanding those unwritten rules and adapting your style to connect with people effectively.
So, okay, those are the 5 skills. But so what? What's the big deal? What happens when we zoom out and think about what a whole community or even a whole world with more EI would actually look like?
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Every single day, with every interaction, we leave an emotional wake, like a boat moving through water. Emotional intelligence is about being aware of that wake and trying to make it a positive one. I mean, just imagine it. Imagine a world where we could have passionate disagreements that actually lead to great ideas instead of just fighting. A world where admitting you made a mistake is seen as a sign of strength, where we could approach people who are different from us with curiosity instead of fear. That's what's possible.
And honestly, here's the best part of this whole conversation. We used to think our brains were basically set in stone after childhood. We know now that's completely wrong. Your brain can form new connections and learn new skills your entire life. This isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a skill, like any other, that you can practice and get better at, no matter how old you are.
And that really brings us to the ultimate point here. What if you could experience all your emotions, the good, the bad, the ugly, without letting them completely take over? What if you could navigate all the tough stuff life throws at you without feeling like you're drowning? That's the real promise of emotional intelligence. It's not about avoiding the waves, it's about learning how to surf. And that is a future worth building for all of us.